Hi, everybody. Happy Earth Day. April 22nd. Every year we celebrate our Earth. Actually, this year, April 22nd, 2020, is 50 years of celebrating Earth Day. It was started April 22nd, 1970, because we realized that we weren't doing a really good job taking care of our Earth. Our Earth does everything to take care of us. It gives us our water to drink, our air to breathe, the food that we eat, and we need to start doing a better job taking care of the Earth. Some of those things that we can do is simply to clean up, pick up trash when you see it, recycle, make sure that we're not polluting our water, our oceans, make sure we're not polluting our air. Just a few things here and there that we can do our part to take care of our Earth, since it does such a good job taking care of us. Now, the story I have for you today to celebrate Earth Day is called The Curious Garden by Peter Brown. And it's about a little boy who lives in an urban area. An urban area is like a city area where he has no plants, no green at all. It's mostly just buildings and cement sidewalks. So he came upon a group of plants one day and decided that he was going to do his part to try to take care of them. So let's see what happens when he becomes the curious gardener for the Curious Garden. Let's take a listen. See Scout around here anywhere. She likes our story time too. So here was the city that Liam lived in. As you can see, it's pretty dreary. There's no green at all. In fact, you can see there's a lot of smoke coming out of the building, so I can imagine the air there is not very good to breathe. But anyway, here is the story of the Curious Garden. There once was a city without a garden or trees or any greenery of any kind. Most people spent their time indoors. I can imagine why. I mean, who would want to go out there and breathe that air? But as you can imagine, it's a very dreary place. However, there was one boy who loved being outside. Even on drizzly days, while everyone else stayed inside, you could always find Liam happily splashing through his neighborhood. It was one such morning that Liam made several surprising discoveries. He was wandering around the old railway, as he did from time to time, when he stumbled upon a dark stairwell leading up to the railroad tracks. He is down here, and the railroad would be up here. The railway had stopped working years ago, and since Liam had always wanted to explore the tracks, there was only one thing for that curious boy to do. Liam ran up the stairs, pushed open the door, and stepped out onto the railway. The first thing he saw was a lonely patch of color. Wildflowers and plants were the last thing he had expected to find up there. But when he took a closer look, it became clear that the plants were dying. They needed a gardener. So you can see this very dreary picture. One lonely patch of color, flowers and greenery. They needed to be taken care of. Liam may not have been a gardener, but he knew that he could help. So he returned to the railway that very next day and got to work. The flowers nearly drowned, and he had a few pruning problems, but the plants patiently waited while Liam found better ways of gardening. As the weeks rolled by, Liam began to feel like a real gardener, and the plants began to feel like a real garden. So he was watering them, he was cutting them, he was doing all the things to take care of them. I want you to see what's happening now to the garden. You take a look. Most gardens just stay in one place, but this was no ordinary garden. With miles of open railway ahead of it, the garden was growing restless. It wanted to explore. The tough little weeds and mosses were the first to move. They popped up farther and farther down the tracks, and they closely followed the more delicate plants. Over the next few months, Liam and the Curious Garden explored every corner of the railway. Do you remember what it looked like? And now you can see the railway on top is all green, and you can see flowers all around. Take a look. Quite a difference. Just that little bit of care that he took made quite a difference to that little bit of a garden. Take a look at that. See how much it's grown? See all the green and the flowers growing everywhere? So after spending his spring and summer and autumn in the garden taking care of it, Liam's time on the railway was finally interrupted by winter. So you can see everything is covered in snow. Heavy blankets of snow fell on the city that season, and for the first time since he'd become a gardener, Liam could not go and tend to his plants. He couldn't go visit them and take care of them. Rather than waste his winter worrying about the garden, he spent his time preparing for spring. So he got to work and he did some research. He was researching on what he could do to help his garden grow in the springtime. After the 3 cold months of snow finally began to melt, and Liam rolled his new gardening gear over to the railway. The garden had always wanted to explore the rest of the city, and that spring it was finally ready to make its move. Once again, the tough little weeds and mosses set out first. They popped up farther and farther from the railway and were closely followed by the more delicate plants. Now take a look. Get all those plants and flowers growing. Now, this was an old abandoned car. Look what's happened to it. The garden was especially curious about old and forgotten things. They took over the old car, the old part of the building. A few plants popped up where they didn't belong. That's an old stop sign. Grew all over it, and a fire hydrant. Other mysterious places popped up all at once. See, now flowers are growing everywhere. But the most surprising thing of all was that not just new gardens popped up, but new gardeners. You see all the people out now? Before the beginning of the book, no one came outside. But do you see what's happened? People are out and about. They're out in the gardens. They're taking care of the gardens, and they're enjoying being outside now. Taking walks in the park, picnics, going fishing, doing all kinds of things outside now. Many years later, the entire city had blossomed, but out of all of the new gardens, Liam's favorite was where it all began, right on top of those train tracks. And that's what it looks like now, after he took care of that one little patch of a garden. I'm going to show you the beginning of the book. This is what the city looked like at the beginning. Look how dreary it is. No green, no colors. The air is all smoky and smoggy. And because Liam decided he was going to start taking care of the things that were growing, this is what it now looks like. Very interesting. So that is called the Curious Garden. Now, to celebrate Earth Day, my family and I are just going to be outside and we're going to take a walk. maybe go up to the park and enjoy the fresh air. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a bag with us. And on our way, on our walk up there, all of us are going to pick up any trash that we see. And we're going to make sure that it gets thrown away because we want to take care of our earth. We want to take care of our neighborhood. And we want to make sure that we're doing our part. And also, if we have time, I'm going to go up and show you our little community garden and where our communities come together to create a garden where things are growing, vegetables and flowers, and they're also using some recycled things to create some very interesting sculptures. So I hope to see you there, and I hope you guys have a great Earth Day. See you later. Bye-bye.